It's a typical Texas morning in 2014 when Mark Oberholzer catches something strange on the news. A pickup truck, his pickup truck, committing acts of terror in the Middle East with his plumbing company's logo and phone number still on the door. How did his truck end up in the hands of ISIS, and what made it a perfect weapon of war? My name's Jimmy, and today in the Lore Garage, we're gonna find out. The story of regular vehicles getting turned into war machines is deeper and more complicated than I had ever imagined. You see, Mark's truck had become something else entirely, a technical, which is a term used by award-winning YouTube historians like myself to describe basically any normal vehicle that's been repurposed for combat. Technicals have two key advantages over purpose-built military vehicles: adaptability and accessibility. They're often faster and more maneuverable, and they can be modified for just about any need you can think of, and they're also a hell of a lot cheaper. Mark's truck was far from the first vehicle to get turned into a technical. Naturally, because war never changes, one of the first thoughts humanity had when the car was invented was, hey, let's put a big gun on the back of this thing and see how that does. Now, it might sound kind of stupid to say, but when people realized they could just slap a gun on a car, it pretty much changed how people fought wars. For one thing, cars had a lot more hit points than horses, and they could also carry more and were faster. In World War I, over 50,000 modified Model Ts alone made their way to Europe, and it wasn't just the United States using them either. Other countries had their own battle wagons too. After the war ended, these countries got to work on a new, more advanced generation of technicals, and when World War Season 2 launched, they helped make it extra deadly. When a Charlie Chaplin impersonator set out to make Germany great again in 1939, his army used a radical new strategy called Blitzkrieg, which was all about using speed to overwhelm the enemy. Tanks and other armored vehicles were concentrated along a narrow front and would pierce enemy lines. Once they got behind the enemy, they split off into smaller units and caused chaos and confusion. Nothing like it had ever been done in the history of warfare, and it was super effective. But the key ingredient to this strategy's success wasn't just the tanks, it was the technicals that followed. We're talking transports, reconnaissance, light armor, and even Kubelwagens. Now, America had a few new techs up their sleeve too, including perhaps the most iconic technical of all time, the Jeep. This thing is as American as cheese slices wrapped in plastic. It moved troops across Europe, the Pacific, and famously, the deserts of northern Africa, where the SAS and Long Range Desert Patrol Group modified Jeep for long-range reconnaissance and hit-and-run attacks. And the Jeep could be just about anything you needed it to be. A radio post, a machine gun turret, an ambulance, even airborne units stuffed them into gliders and dropped them from the sky. If you're interested in learning even more about the vehicles of World War II, we actually just did a Lore Garage episode on it. But for now, what you need to know is this. Technicals had become more than just modified cars. Many were now purpose-built by governments and mass-produced. But resistance fighters in occupied countries were already ushering in the next era. These weren't armies, they were organized civilians. They weaponized whatever they could steal, buy, or repurpose. Guns were braced against dashboards or mounted in cargo beds. They blended into traffic until the moment they didn't. It was the evolution of revolution. Unless, of course, you put your plumbing logo on the side.
If you're like me, you want an off-roading tire that knows the dirt, not something that was cooked up in a lab somewhere. That's why you want to go with today's sponsor, the hand-cooked Dynapro MT2 off-roading tire. They're farmed in rich soil, sand, rocks, and mud, so they get that deep sidewall, massive tread pattern, and scalloped shoulders, giving you the grip Dynapro MT2s are known for. They're composed of a special compound rated for mud and snow. The massive V-shaped lugs give you great sidewall protection, and the shoulders are reinforced, giving you great support and traction off-road, making these hand-cooked most aggressive tire without sacrificing drivability too. Yeah, this little guy still got some growing to do. If you want tires grown to handle even the toughest terrains, go with the Dynapro MT2. Click the link below to learn more. Mama! Let's start fixing supper. Let's boil some of these up. Boiled rubber, my favorite.
The fallout of Mark's old F-250 being shown on the national news began immediately. His number was still on the door, and people started calling in death threats, thinking he had donated the truck to the jihadist himself. Texas police received over 1,000 phone calls reporting Mark in one day. His business got review bombed, and if you actually look up his business today, it's all anyone mentions in the reviews. So Mark started carrying a gun and even had to stop doing business for a while. Things seemed like they'd hit rock bottom, and then the feds came knocking. Both the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security paid Mark a visit and questioned him on how his truck had ended up supporting an anti-American terrorist group, and the truth was, he had no idea. Over a year earlier, he had traded the truck in at AutoNation Ford in Houston, and according to Mark, he left the dealership with one simple request: remove the decals before you sell it, please. The decals were very much not removed, and the truck was sent to auction. It was then bought by a local used car dealer before being sold to an overseas buyer who quickly put it on a ship and sent it off to Turkey. From there, it made its way to the Middle East, where the modern Technical was born in the late 1960s. Back then, British Special Forces needed fast, durable vehicles for desert operations, so they turned to engineering experts Marshall of Cambridge. These guys were legends in British defense and had been responsible for manufacturing aircraft parts and modifying planes for decades. Now, were they going to create a brand new, high-tech, government-funded, do-it-all vehicle? Nah, they gave the Army 72 pink Land Rovers instead. They were nicknamed the Pink Panthers, and surprisingly, they were kind of perfect, not because they were high-tech, but because of their back-to-basics philosophy. They had no doors, roofs, or windscreens, just some extra fuel tanks and a few machine guns. They were fast and had enough long-range capability to strike targets way out in the desert, and the pink paint, as it turned out, worked as a great desert camouflage color. I want one of these things so badly. It's in my top 5 dream cars of all time. I think they look so cool. I will find one day. From there, though, the modern Technical, the ones like Mark's truck, was born. You didn't need a bespoke platform or mass production. In fact, you didn't even need a stable government. Soon, Technicals started popping up in conflicts all across Africa and the Middle East. In the 70s, the Polisario Front in West Africa showed just how successful a makeshift army could be when they deployed a huge arsenal of Technicals in their fight for independence against Morocco. They could strike fast, do a ton of damage, and disappear. In fact, they were so successful that Morocco didn't order more expensive equipment to fight back. Instead, they just made their own Technicals, and within a few years, it became obvious which vehicle type was the best: the pickup truck. The Toyota Hilux goes with war like peanut butter goes with bullets. These things are so ubiquitous in Warzone footage, you probably don't even notice them anymore. In fact, they're so popular as Technicals that they have an entire war named after them. The Libyans had tanks, armored personnel carriers, and heavy artillery, but the Chads had something different: Toyota pickups. They'd stalk their enemy for hundreds of miles across the desert, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When that moment came, they'd leap from the sand dunes, moving faster than the tank guns could turn, and unleashing volleys of rockets and bullets. These battles were over in minutes, with the Toyotas disappearing back into the desert, leaving nothing but tracks and flaming wreckage behind them. The lesson was clear: lightly armored, highly mobile vehicles weren't just enough. Sometimes they were better. This idea expanded like that balloon hat I got at Rainforest Cafe last year in Las Vegas. How is that thing $25? I'll never know. And how did Mark's old F-250 end up in the Middle East? Mark had no idea where his truck had gone. All he knew was that he was under federal investigation, unable to work, and fearing for his own life. And now the news was talking about all of that too, which brought him even more attention. So Mark did what all those bus benches have been trying to get me to do for years. He filed a lawsuit. The defendant wasn't the media or the government, it was the dealership he traded in his truck to. They were accused of negligence, and Mark was seeking over $1 million in damages. At this point, you might be thinking, the case is cut and dry. I mean, what car dealership in their right mind would just send a pickup to the Middle East? Well, the thing is, the story of Mark's truck isn't all that unique. Most people's trucks don't end up being on the news being driven by ISIS with their company name and phone number on the side, but lots of pickups are making their way to global war zones in the same way Mark's did. There's a huge demand for them abroad, and America has a lot of supply. Most international buyers are totally legit and just want a truck. The ones that aren't legit probably use a sort of middleman in a non-sus location to purchase the vehicle on their behalf. And this is still going on to this day. In 2026, technicals aren't just around, they're evolving. In cities, bulldozers are being turned into battering rams and buses into assault wagons. These things are designed for checkpoint overruns, wall breaching, and straight up intimidation. They can act as a rolling barricade for riflemen. The worst of them are packed with explosives and pointed at something important. Even K-vans are being enlisted, including one in the Philippines used as an RPG-wielding getaway car. For a while, ISIS even ran factory-style workshops for technicals. Cartels are building narco tanks to protect gunmen and project dominance. And in Ukraine, they have small units of volunteers dedicated to building technicals. And these guys have gotten really creative. Just check out this BMW 7 Series with a massive missile launcher on the back. Dude, we gotta slam this thing to the ground. But what about our buddy Mark? Through the court proceedings, the facts came to light. The auction, the sale to the Middle East, all of it. And in the end, a settlement was reached, though the exact number was never made public. More importantly, Mark's life eventually did return to normal and his business recovered. So if you ever find yourself with a busted toilet in Galveston County, Texas, there's a number you can call on the side of an F-250 all the way in Syria.
Huge news, guys. Pass Gas is back this Monday. Monday, April 6th, Past Gas is coming back. Donut's Automotive History Show. We are going deep on the golden era of the Japanese domestic market, JDM. Mark your calendars. Monday, April 6th, new season of Past Gas. It brings me great joy to say that. All right, Monday, we'll see you there.
And that is the lore that you need to know about technicals. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been wanting to cover this topic for a long time at Donut. And next on Lore Garage, we got an episode about the Cannonball Race across America. I am very excited to tell you guys that story as well. So make sure to look out for that. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I love each and every single one of you so much. And remember, cherish all the moments you make because you truly never know when the sun is gonna blow up. Bye. Yo, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you like this episode, check out this one.